Welcome back for our Week 16 Sunday DFS episode. We're here with Quinten to chat DFS for Sunday and the games this Sunday and build some lineups. We have a free DraftKings contest going for Sunday. We also have a fun DraftKings contest going for Saturday and a Saturday mini episode. If you haven't checked those out, they'll be linked in the description. Let's jump into how we did last week.
Yeah, last week was a lot of fun. We placed, at least in the Millionaire Maker, we got our money back, so 20 became 30. We were at 156 points. Let's go ahead and compare this or bring up the winning lineup, which was 263 points. And we can see that, we basically had Baker and Mike Evans that got it done in our lineup, and that was about it. Let's take a look at that winning lineup that was actually on the game that we chose not to go with. We thought that it was going to be that high scoring game. I don't know that either of us would have been on the Jared Goff train, though.
Yeah, they definitely had a lot of garbage time points, and I know this leaderboard got shaken up a lot in those last couple minutes of this game, as Amon-Ra St. Brown just got peppered with targets, and Goff managed to get up to 5 touchdowns, and it ended up being what you needed. It really looked like you needed Allen there for a while until Detroit made it closer of a game later in the fourth, but we had a good call with Mike Evans, and it was the older receivers. We saw Devontae Adams pop up for the first time really this year and have that explosive game. And then the young guy, Brian Thomas Jr., he continues to get it done. He's really that dominant number one receiver in Jacksonville. I wish they were a little bit better, but there's
And
that mini stack we had the best game on the slate with Buffalo Detroit, and then the worst game on the slate with the Jets and Jacksonville. And those ended up being the pieces you needed.
yeah, that Jets and Jacksonville going over is a bit of a surprise. It was a fun game to watch, too, which surprised me.
And this is a weird winning lineup too with the double tight end, and they
Oh,
managed to get away with Stevenson as well.
it is surprising.
So
Yeah, the double tight end never wins, and it did.
you needed the Broncos defense too. That was a clear standout defense winner with that horrible pick six play call by the Colts.
Yeah.
We'll get into the Colts mess a little later, but
Well, I think with all of that, let's jump into this week's games. Kicking off at the top with Detroit at Chicago, where Detroit's favored by 6.5. Over under is 47.5. What do y'all think here?
the big news is Montgomery's hurt. He's out for the rest of the season, and it's Jahmyr Gibbs. It's the Jahmyr Gibbs show. My main advice for this game is trust what we've seen. The Lions will run the ball. They will heavily involve Gibbs in the passing game as well. We've said that for these 2 years while they've been a tandem, that if either one of them were alone, they'd be a top 3 option. Give me Gibbs. He's just too cheap for how good that offense is and how important he's going to be to them succeeding.
Yeah, I agree that Gibbs is going to continue to be a big role. I do wonder if they're going to get slightly creative and maybe try to run some of their wide receivers to take a little bit off of Gibbs or give him a breather and maybe look at other playmakers that are already on their offense because they don't use everyone that they have. They could definitely run a few plays with some of their other wide receivers to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, we might see some like handoffs to Williams and get him more involved. He's kind of a speedster. Yeah, I bet they will. They have a good offensive coordinator, and it won't be suddenly Jahmyr Gibbs gets 40 carries. They're not
No.
going to do that, but he will be a central part of that offense.
Yeah, I don't expect Jared Goff to have to pass again for almost 500 yards. That was unique for the Bills that could keep this going. I feel like Detroit, this is a very important matchup for them. They're trying to close in on that top spot for the NFC and get that bye. And they're fighting with Philadelphia and Minnesota. They have this matchup where they can literally just shut down the Bears, get their win, and go home. And I feel like that's what the Lions are going to do. And that comes down to running the ball and not taking a lot of risk.
And then for Chicago's side, they've looked a little lost past couple weeks. Last time we saw these teams play, it really was just that second half for Caleb Williams, but he ended up with a pretty good performance. Do you think there's any option for stacking the Chicago side, or are you kind of just out?
I'm just out. They got one coach fired, but I'm not really sure that the team doesn't want to clean house a little bit more than they've already done. And the players don't seem real on board with the way things are going right now. I think they've just checked out. They're ready to move on to next year, and I think the Lions learned their lesson that they can't not shut down the Bears.
Yeah, they can't just give up on him like they did at the end of the last game. I do still like Allen. He had a lot of success against this defense a couple weeks ago, and he's been their number one target since that offensive coordinator change about a month and a half ago. So I think if you do want to take a shot, he's the main go-to. But other than that, this is our highest over-under on the slate at just 47.5. So we don't really have one of those huge standout games. None of the high-scoring dome games that we've seen the past couple
Yeah, like
weeks.
last week with the Lions and the Bills. So we don't have that
Yeah.
this week. And I just think there are better plays than Keenan Allen.
Well, let's continue
Yep.
on to the next game then. Cleveland at Cincinnati, where Cincinnati's favored by 7.5. Over under is 46.5. Winston's benched.
And
So we're getting
I-
DTR.
Yeah, I want to throw a big fit, and I know that the Browns fans have already been throwing a fit because the Browns announced that they were going to bring back Deshaun Watson next year, and the fans are like, we're going to give up our season tickets, and I agree with them. And I kind of want to do that this week and go, why are you playing DTR? Just give us Jameis Winston
Yeah.
because we're going to lose. At least make it fun. At least make us want to watch it.
Yeah. And I think every single NFL fan wants to see him out there on the field. And the games are just more fun. We're going to see just a bad offense with DTR. He might turn the ball over less. He might not. But I just don't think we're going to see him be able to support like Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman, how we've seen Winston in the past couple of weeks. So it really just comes down to, do you think you can buy into the Cincinnati options if they're not pushed by Cleveland at their price?
I think I can. I think Joe Burrow and Jahmyr Chase, they're still going to want their time and their touchdowns, and I can still buy into it. I can also still buy into that Cleveland is going to be able to move the ball because everybody's really been able to move the ball against Cincinnati. So I do like Jerome Ford. Nick Chubb is out. Maybe they're just going to run Jerome Ford. He's definitely not a bad play against the Cincinnati defense.
Yeah. And they really seem to be targeting getting Chase that triple crown and going for the leading in receptions, yards, and touchdowns for all receivers. I expect he'll see at least 11, 12 targets this game and continue to set the pace for wide receivers.
I'm so mad we don't get Winston. This could have
Is
been
it
so
just-
much
Yeah.
fun.
Was it just an interceptions issue, or why are they benching him?
Yeah, he doesn't really play winning football. He just plays fun football.
Yeah.
So,
But fun football
the reason
sells
why
tickets.
Cleveland- Exactly. Cleveland might have 3 wins regardless of who the starting quarterback is, but your fans are going to tune in. But we have seen that over-under drop already 4 points from the start of this week with that announcement.
Let's continue on to the Arizona at Carolina game, where Arizona's favored by 4, another 46.5 over under. Is this going to be McBride's touchdown game? We chatted last week. McBride didn't get the touchdowns.
We did. I don't know if y'all saw the play, but this team wants him in the end zone so badly. Like, they gave him another red zone target, and he got it down to the half-inch line, and he just has a barrier between him and the end zone that he just cannot get through. That being said, I'm not going to miss out on the Trey McBride touchdown game. Perfectly fine going straight back to it. This week against Carolina, it's a great matchup. And Kyler was even tweeting, we're gonna get him in the end zone. The entire team is just rallying. They know how central Trey McBride is to this offense, and they want to put him in the offense.
Trey
It
McBride
is ridiculous.
He's a big guy. Why don't we just do the tush push with Trey McBride and push him into the end
think
zone?
so.
Everyone, the whole team would love that.
Yeah, if we get to week 18 and he's still 0 touchdowns, I think we're going to see him lining up on every single play in a variety of positions.
That would be fun.
But we did see Noah Gray get 2 touchdowns the other week against this Carolina defense. They're vulnerable to the tight end. In worst case scenario, you're still getting double-digit targets to your tight end, which not many options can say that.
You are. Yeah, it's Trey McBride and James Conner in this matchup against the Panthers. I don't know. We'll see. Carolina's been good and bad, and you never know what you're going to get on the Carolina defense.
Yeah, it looks like Leggette's going to be missing this one, so they're going to be missing that option. I'm fine going back to Thielen, and we got some injury news on Coker, but I think him and Moore should be playing. So still some options. They haven't been the best options for Young, and he's still been getting it done. So I think Carolina will be able to keep up at home and pace this Cardinals team.
I do
There
too.
was
This game has a potential of being a lot of fun. I think Thielen is your go-to person in cash. He's going to get his 5 to 7 targets. He's going to make the most of them. He is extremely dependable. But in a tournament, as long as Jalen Coker is playing, I like Coker.
And Connor is appearing as one of the highest owned running backs in this slate too. He's in a favored matchup against one of the worst rushing defenses, and they like to run the ball when they're ahead. So an interesting decision on what are you doing with him? Are you kind of going with the rest of the field, or are you pivoting? Because typically a pretty good strategy is if you have a popular running back, you just say they're getting it done through the air and go with Kyler McBride, even throw in a Marvin Harrison or a Mike Wilson if you want to go that route.
I don't particularly like Chuba Hubbard on the Panthers side in this game. I feel like he's been trailing off, and maybe it's all of the work that he's seen this season, but I just don't feel like he's getting it done like he was in the previous weeks.
Yeah, his yards per carry has been coming down, but they've been playing some pretty good rushing defense too. Arizona's not a bad, but they've had the Eagles and Kansas City past couple weeks, and he also struggled last week as well. But interesting to see if he rebounds. He'll get the touches, but I just don't think he has the upside to really be a tournament winning play.
Yeah, I don't either.
So maybe a stack from this game, or maybe just mostly the Arizona side. Continue on to New England at Buffalo, where Buffalo is favored by 14 points. Over-under is 46.
I feel like the
And
Bills
Buffalo
are going to put up their 35 points in this game. And
I agree.
the Bills get to play New England 2 of the next of their last 3 games. So I don't know that they want to run it up too high this week. They also get to play them again in week 18. That one will be in New England. But this has the potential to be fun, in my opinion, just because they could run up the score if they so chose to.
And it's
I
at
mean,
home.
I think they still carry a couple decades worth of hatred from the Tom Brady
Yeah.
years. So I think they're fine. The Buffalo fans will cheer them on and running up the score. It's more, I mean, Buffalo's frustrating because it just could be Allen. He's had 5 rushing touchdowns in the past 2 games. So it's like, is James Cook going to get his? Is it just going to be taken at the goal line from Allen? And there's just a lot of wild cards where it's like, how does this offense actually function? And what are the other pieces that Allen's going to bring with him?
Yeah. Not a lot here.
I do like Cook. He's in a good spot. He's at home, 14 points. Or even, I mean, if you want to say they get up by 4 scores at halftime and they're just crushing them, then would see a lot of Ray Davis in the second half. But I do like Cook. I do also like taking some dart throws for New England. New England knows that they're not really a good team. They're not playing for this year, but they want to see what they have in their options, and especially their young quarterbacks. So I think they'll let them air it out to try to come back and just keep fighting.
Let's continue on to the LA Rams at the New York Jets, where LA is favored by 3.5 and the over-under is 46. I didn't expect the Jets to play like they did last week, so was a little surprised. What do y'all think about this week?
I love Devontae Adams. We know that Aaron Rodgers has got his own agenda, and that agenda is getting it to Devontae Adams. He doesn't care about anyone else.
Jets level up every time they're eliminated from the playoffs and just can mess up their draft picks. And then they start to actually play good and say, "Oh, could have been doing this all year."
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but Garrett Wilson I saw some video of him on the sidelines telling Rodgers, if it's one-on-one, throw the fade. He was trying to get the ball, and I guess Garrett Wilson is just not on Rodgers' Christmas list because he was going all in on Devontae Adams, and Devontae Adams had almost 200 yards.
Yeah, no, he killed it. I'm very heavy on the Rams side. I was surprised it was only a 3.5 point spread. This is still not a good Jets team. We've had proof throughout the season that this is not a good Jets team, and their defense is really bad. It kind of falls in your trend, too, of West Coast coming east. And also, they're playing with additional days of rest. So, Jets have only had 6 days to come off that game, and then the Rams were that Thursday night last week. So, they have that extra day of rest, couple days of rest. And this is an old Jets team, so I like the Rams to cover here. I really like the targets with Puka, and if you want to go fully in on Matthew Stafford with Puka Cup, I can talk myself into that.
This is my game. This is the game I would target. I love this game, both sides of it. I can be talked into a lot of the pieces here.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, the nice thing about this game is we know where the ball's going with this one. There's no who is it going to be this week with the Bills. Is it going to be that Mac Hollins or
Yeah.
Curtis
This
Samuel?
isn't
It's
Green
like we
Bay.
know it's going to be Devontae Adams, Puka, and Cooper Cup are going to see 85% of the targets in this game.
Yep. We could just take Cooper Cup, Devontae Adams, and Puka and have our 3 wide receivers, I feel like.
Well, we'll stash that idea away for when we're building lineups in a bit. Let's chat a couple more games first. San Francisco at Miami, where Miami is favored by 1. Over-under is 45.
I think this will be a very competitive game. Both teams have an outside chance for playoffs, but not really what they expected to be at this point of the year. Not really living up to their preseason aspirations. We did get news about we had another Niners running back, so I think Rendo's ruled out for this one,
He is.
which leads us to Patrick Taylor. And that's kind of the theme for this game for me, is just that it's got some good value pieces. Looking at Jawan Jennings at 5.9, Jonnu Smith at 5.5, and then Patrick Taylor at 5.2. Is there anyone that stands out that I'm missing, or any of those value plays that you want to lock into your lineup?
This isn't a game that I really like. I feel that they're so banged up on both sides that I want to stay away from this. I know that Waddle being out usually leads to Jonnu Smith seeing a lot more targets, but the 49ers have held tight ends to under 35 yards per game. I don't like that, but he will just see such an increased workload, and maybe statistically it wasn't good matchups in the other 49er games, but that stat still stands out. And Juwan Jennings is likely going to have to go up against the top cornerback in Jalen Ramsey. Another piece that I'm going to shy away from. I still feel like the 49ers have the potential to shut down the Dolphins, and we saw the Dolphins play really poorly last week against the Texans, and I believe Tua threw 3 interceptions last week.
Yeah, it looked kind of rough. I think if I'm going to get a piece in this game, it's going to be Juwan Jennings. Patrick Taylor scares me, and I think we might see a lot of the crowd go into him just because injury news later in the week, you get your value. But Patrick Taylor was never meant to be a full workhorse running back. He was meant to just be like a goal line and come in for specific downs. But he doesn't really have that skill set to be an every down back. So it'll be interesting to see how kind of Shanahan schemes up their offense moving forward.
Let's continue on to Philadelphia at Washington, where Philadelphia is favored by 3. The over-under is 45. Feels like this could be pretty competitive. Philadelphia's been stopping a lot.
I can't get the Commanders' loss out of my, or not loss, the Commanders' win last week out of my head. The fact that they won by New Orleans going for a 2-point conversion and not getting it, I just can't get that out of my head. I feel like the Commanders are melting down and the Eagles are on the rise. You want to combine that with how they played when they met in week 11 just a few weeks ago, and Saquon Barkley ran for 146 yards and 36 fantasy points in week 11. Those things are dominating in my mind, and I'm just afraid of any Commander side of this ball.
Yeah, this is an Eagles team that hasn't lost since September. But like we were saying, just for a general overview of these games, we don't have that crazy high over under. And I think I'm very interested in this game just because we have the potential to have 2 great offenses here. I think they also are pretty good defenses, but just kind of that ceiling outcome that we get a back and forth between Daniels and Hurts, and these options actually come through.
I
I
don't see
think
it.
I don't really see it either. Personally, my lean is that I think it'll basically be Saquon. When you look at what the Commanders tried to do against this Eagles defense, they kind of knew they couldn't pass against them, at least their cornerbacks, and they tried to attack it underneath with Eckler and Ertz, and neither of those players will be playing this week. So they won't really have a lot of options for attacking underneath. Maybe they'll get the rookie tight end Senate involved, but I think it's just going to be a heavy run from both sides. And this game will end a little too quick to have that high ceiling outcome.
Will Barkley be worth the price?
He definitely has the potential.
I like Barkley. It's a big decision between him and Bijan for me. But
Well, we can come
I
back to
kind
that
of
then.
just been switching the two.
Let's continue on to Minnesota at Seattle, where Minnesota's favored by 3. The over-under is 42.5. Will Geno be playing? And if not, or if Geno's playing, will DK or Charbonnet be playing?
I
Yeah,
think Geno had a full practice in, so I anticipate him playing.
I do too. But
But I don't know if it's
Charbonnet,
going to matter.
Charbonnet didn't practice,
Yeah.
and Kenneth Walker didn't practice. And is that going to leave us with Kenny McIntosh? 4,000.
Gross. No, I don't think I can do that against a really good Minnesota run defense. One other note, it's still kind of earlier in the week, but this game is predicted to have rain throughout the entire game. And we have those outdoor December rainy games, and I just feel like neither of these teams are really going to go anywhere. Metcalf hasn't been good for a while now. He is cheap. He's affordable, 5,500 price tag, which kind of stands out when I'm looking for it, but there's a reason he's cheap.
There is. He was down to 3 targets last week. So last week it was 3, the week before it was 6, and the week before it was 9. So each week he is seeing less targets. And he is injured and may not even be in there. Then we may see somebody like Jake Bobo in there.
Yeah, I think I just don't really like the general feel of the Seattle offense right now. Minnesota's defense has been playing great. We know they're going to blitz a lot, and if it's an immobile Geno Smith or Sam Howell out there, I think it's going to be the same result of that offense just not moving effectively enough to pay off anyone on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think here it's just the Vikings, Aaron Jones, or Cam Akers even.
Yeah, I like Aaron Jones in this.
Well, let's then move on to Tennessee at Indiana, where Indiana's favored by 3.5. Over-under is 42.5.
I'm going to give this game to you because I am not the best judge of this game. I'm angry with the Colts. I am angry with Jonathan Taylor for dropping that touchdown. I am sad about the Anthony Richardson completion rates that are just incredibly low, 44%, I think, last week. I can't do this game.
The Colts are a mess. Thankfully, we are second in our division because we're managing to be the third worst mess in the division with Tennessee and Jacksonville underneath. But I'll tell you the good news. So the good news is that I think you can play Anthony Richardson in this game. I don't think you have to bring along any of his wide receivers. You don't have to watch the game. You don't have to watch him throw passes and chuck it down the field. And then he might magically get to his 20 points or over 20 points, and you'd be happy with his price. So he's only 5.4 thousand. He's been averaging over 20 points since returning back as the starter 4 weeks ago, and it's mostly due to his rushing. He cheats out there. Like, if you have 150 passing yards, and then you have 9 rushing attempts a game, and he's averaging a rushing touchdown a game, then it's just a cheat code to get to that 20-point limit and him to pay off his value. When we're talking between what AR needs to do at that 5.4 thousand, we're talking 4 times the salary, 5 times. That's the 20 to 25 point range, while Allen at his 8.7 thousand salary has to go nuclear and hit that like 45 cap game. So I think he is a really good value here. We are seeing him appear a lot in for roster percentage as well. And my only other stack, I think if you did want to stack him, you could bring Downs along. He's had some good games with Richardson. And then I really like Ridley on the other side. We got Rudolph as the quarterback, and Rudolph hyper-targeted Ridley in a couple games, and this is not a good Colts secondary. So I can see a vision where it's a Colts game in a dome. This is a bad defense on a bad defense, and it works.
Well, we got 2 more games. New York Giants at Atlanta. Atlanta's favored by 9. Over-under is 41. Cousins isn't starting.
Yeah, we got Michael Penix Jr., the first-round pick. I think this game's interesting. I really just want to lean in on the Atlanta side. My worry is that they're not actually going to trust Penix enough to run a full offense, that they're kind of fine limping through as long as they can do enough to win, which would really just be leaning on Bijan. I think, your running back is your rookie quarterback's best friend. Also, just a little background for Penix as a prospect. He's really just a pocket passer. For his entire last year in college, he had 8 total rushing yards and really liked to spread the ball around. I think the wide receivers are fun dart throws. I don't think they'll get played a lot. And they're very talented with London and Mooney, even McLeod in the slot. But my main lean is Bijan at home, heavy favorite against a bad Giants defense. If I can afford to play him, it's between him and Saquon, like I was saying earlier. What about you?
My problem with Bijan is he's 8,100. At that price, he's got to produce 40 fantasy points. The highest he's ever produced in his career is 32, and that was against New Orleans. 3 of his 4 top fantasy weeks of his career have come against New Orleans. I can't get on board with Bijan at 8,100. I just can't do it. He's not going to win my tournament lineup. He's not going to have a day of 40 points. And why is that? Because if they even get close to giving him that much work, they're going to bring in Tyler Algier a lot more.
That's true. And especially if they get up, if they actually do get to that double digit, we'll see probably a lot more split between him and Algier but this is a bad Giants defense, or a bad Giants offense. And they got Drew Lock out there. Drew Lock did not support Neighbors when he was in. I was kind of hoping they'd have Tim Boyle, so maybe we could talk about Neighbors, but I really don't see anything from the Giants side.
No, the Falcons would be happy winning 15-9 and just like they did last week. The only problem is they lost their kicker, so they can't kick the ball either.
What about the Falcons defense? Is that one that maybe we should look at when we go pick up defenses?
They are a great option, but DraftKings did not. They're the most expensive defense.
Oh,
Wow.
Like DraftKings, you would not think that Atlanta would be priced that high, but they saw this Giants team and they said no, raise them up a couple hundred. They're the most expensive defense on the slate.
wow.
That's funny.
Well, let's wrap it up with one more game. Jacksonville at the Las Vegas Raiders, where Las Vegas is favored by 1. Over-under is 39.5. Are we just avoiding and pretending this game isn't happening, or picking up anyone?
Or is it going to be the Jacksonville game from last week where we need a couple pieces?
It could be. I mean, there's definitely talent there on the Jacksonville side.
I think it's really only Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr., I think, is one of the best rookie wide receivers. He's looked amazing all year.
Even Brenton Strange, the tight end.
So is he getting some play with Evan Ingram being out?
Yeah, he's getting everything. He had a huge week last week, and he was in that
they don't
winning lineup, I believe.
Have another pass-catching option. And it looks like Aiden O'Connell's going to be back, so maybe that offense will be a little bit better than what it was with Desmond Ridder for the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell has actually been supporting Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, at least, if you want some plays in this game. Other than that, I'm not really liking it. I kind of like Myers as a dart throw, and that's about it.
Let's move on and build some lineups then.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about ownership estimates that I saw. The ownership on the top 3 quarterbacks. Let me bring up the top 3 quarterbacks here. So we've got Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. Though no one's over 3% owned, nobody wants to pay up for these top 3 quarterbacks, which to me is kind of a reason why I might want to target in on them and take a risk on one of them.
I think my lean for that group would be Hurts. He's gotten it done, and he doesn't carry quite the price tag that Allen does. You do get almost a couple thousand savings for him. But I think the reason for that is there's some running back plays that I'm worried about could kill me if they go off with the Bijan, the Gibbs, and the Saquon. So then naturally people are plugging those in, and you just don't need to save money for the quarterback. So good way to get different is paying up for quarterback.
Yeah, I'm on the Burrow, but you're going to build your lineup first and then I'll build another one. Let's go see who are you going to stack? What is your target here?
So kind of starting with my priority plays, I did want to lock in Saquon and Gibbs. Those are the two running backs on the slate that could go for 200 total yards and multi-touchdowns, and I want to have some access to them.
Sure.
And then I'm really just, I will not miss out on the Trey McBride week. So I went back to Trey McBride.
Now you got to save
He
some.
has a great matchup.
How are you saving here?
Yes. So that's a very expensive first three options. So I continue down with Kyler and kind of building the stack out that way. And then including another pass catching option for him with Marvin Harrison Jr. It hasn't been quite clicking, but he's still getting deep targets. And one of those connects against a bad Carolina defense, would not be surprised.
I'm good with that.
So then I really had to save I brought in 3 other wide receivers that are all 5,300 or below. So the first one was Keenan Allen, that the Bears are still fighting back against Detroit. And then Allen is just the go-to, especially with the PPR bonus for DraftKings. He gets there. And then I like Coker for the Panthers kind of fighting back and getting some explosive upside there.
I think Coker's going to end up
Ending it
being
out.
pretty well owned this week, because he's such a bargain there at 4,200.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that explosive play last week. Like he's done that a couple times throughout the season of when he's actually been on the field. He's been hurt quite a lot. My last flex play, I was trying to find a way to squeeze in another running back. I really like the running backs, but I ended up having to save money, and I was going with Demario Douglas. Like I was saying, I think New England will keep fighting, and at least May will have the pass attempts to support Douglas at his price tag at just 4,400. That left me with 2,600 for the Titans defense. This Colts team loves to make mistakes, and they really can't stop tripping over themselves, so might as well get points up.
I like most of it. There are some that I have problems with, that instead of starting like with a totally new stack, I may just change yours up a little bit for mine and make it my own, because I do like lots of parts. I love Barkley, I love Gibbs, and Trey McBride. Those are all great options that I feel like. Where I don't like it is I don't like Keenan Allen. Coker, I'm a little worried about how injured he's going to be, and I really don't like Demario Douglas. So I'm going to swap those out. One of the ones that I have that I like is Keon Coleman for the Bills. So I'm going to plug him in. He's even a little bit cheaper. And then I'm wondering if I can get to Thielen. I don't think I can. I would have to give up McBride or Coker.
Yeah,
I
you'd
wonder
have
if I
to
give up
drop down.
Coker and I add in Thielen. Now I'm left at 3,600. I don't know who we got at 3,600. Let's see if we can find anybody. But yeah, that does create a problem there. I would have to probably drop Kyler out of there instead and go to a cheaper quarterback, which I'm not a big fan of doing this week. So I'm not going to be able to swap that out like I thought I was going to be able to. It's interesting though.
Yeah, I ended up, it was like 2 entirely different paths, basically depending on what you want to do with running backs. Like the running backs are so expensive that you either can have a premier stack and save a lot of money you're looking at that tier 2, tier 3 running back plays, or spend up and try to desperately find that cheap stack for quarterback that's going to do enough.
Yeah. I think Barkley is probably my problem here, and I do like him. I think he's going to be going for a big game. If I do something I really don't like, which you talked about doing, and popping Anthony Richardson in there all by himself, now I got Coleman and Thielen. I can actually probably get somewhere now with 4,300. Well, then we go back to Coker or Michael Wilson.
You have Coker, and another interesting option I think is McNichols. He's back for Washington, and we're targeting those underneath pass catchers for Washington, but it's kind of a very risky play.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would be looking for whoever was in Seattle, the running back. If both Walker and Charbonnet are out, you could go to McIntosh. So that would be an interesting play because they're going to run the ball. But it is a pretty bad defense in Minnesota. So that would definitely be an interesting play and ways to switch it up. So I don't know that I have anything here that I love.
I think that wraps us up for our Week 16 Sunday DFS episode. We have 2 going this weekend. If you're watching this before Saturday, join us in our Saturday contest and check out our Saturday mini episode linked in the description. And then we have our Sunday free contest up, and that link is also in the description. Hope to see you there. Good luck.
Hopefully everyone finds some winning lineups under the tree this year. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We'll have some Christmas lineup specials with some other small slates next week.
And maybe a Santa Jets shirt.
Yeah, I'll wear my Santa Jets shirt. See if I can get an Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams lineup going.